I think the review should have a single picture of Suzuno, or multiple pictures of Suzuno, but definitely all of her.
Like 15 minutes of me just saying Suzuno's name over and over again.
With Toho in the background. The perfect vid.
The world isn't ready.
It better be, because this masterpiece is gonna blow their minds.
I don't even know if I'm ready for it. My computer might not be able to handle that level of awesome.
You got this, man. I believe that only you have the power to make this happen.
I will do my best because the world needs Suzuno.
But it must be done before the world is too far gone.
Yes, I am off to change the world.
That man is mankind's one true hope.
If the idea of Satan being reduced to working fast food at McDonald's doesn't pique your interest, I frankly don't know what will. After losing a battle with the forces of good in their dimension, Satan and his general escape through the portal into our world, and the hero who came to slay them follows them through. However, without their powers, they're forced to adapt to Japanese culture and delay their war for another day. The comedic elements were great in concept and execution. The best ones revolve around watching the protagonists adapt to modern life and their conversations in general.
かしこまりました。では、デュラ飯号をお借りしてよろしいですか？許可する。
I couldn't help but laugh out loud pretty much every time. Other good ones involved the interactions between the characters, particularly the ones between Mao-sama and Ashia, and the ones between Mao-sama and Emi. Suzuno's the best! One problem with the comedy was that some of the timing was off. The show tried to shove in some brief comedic scenes during sections where the show was actually buckling down to be serious. There was some light humor in passing that worked during those parts, but there were some that just totally derailed the mood. The other is that there was some lowbrow, overused shit sprinkled in there, but thankfully, it was rare. Hataraku Maou-sama actually has a pretty solid story for a show whose primary genre is comedy. Suzuno's the best! The interspersal of slice-of-life comedy with plot progression was pretty much perfect. The plot-related elements increase until the climax, where there are several episodes of pretty much pure plot, though some of the introductions of conflicts and antagonists are kind of sudden. On the note of seriousness, it would have been nice if it had taken itself more seriously in general. Some parts of it are quite serious, and kind of feel out of place considering how lightly the surrounding material takes itself, because the serious parts had a lot of potential for more development, and as they were a pretty interesting source of drama. It would have been interesting to learn more about the fantasy world of Ente Isla, though that could be something they explore in later seasons, if they come. It doesn't really hurt the story as it is. Some of the transitions after high points of conflict back to normalcy are kind of jolting, and the ending could have been better. In fact, the last episode just felt tacked on to end the show back in the slice of life mode, and was probably the weakest of all 13 episodes as a whole, though the part where it kind of brings things full circle by tying in with the first episode was pretty good. The characters are easily the highlight of Hataraku Maou-sama. Suzuno's the best! Pretty much all of them are interesting, likable, have depth, or undergo some development. And all of them are at least entertaining to watch in some manner or another. Mao-sama, wow, I can't not add an honorific to that name, is the quirky Dark Lord whose aspirations shrink from conquering a world to ascending the ladder at McDonald's. Thank God he's not your generic beta fuck nugget. This show would have been considerably worse if it revolved around one of them. He's dense, but it makes sense, considering his situation. However, he could have used more attention regarding his development and the changes in his moral convictions. Emi is a surprisingly not shitty tsundere who actually has reasonable motivation for her actions and attitudes. She's only the third tsundere I've ever seen in anime that actually had a legitimate excuse for being one. She actually behaved pretty logically and rationally. What a fucking novel concept! Holy shit, is that rare for tsunderes to do. She also developed somewhat over the course of the show, though that's not saying she didn't have moments where she annoyed me though. But at least those moments were pretty rare as far as tsunderes go, with most occurring near the beginning. And she only had one instance of overreaction, but at least it was pretty brief. And yes, I did kinda like her. Boo! Draconis likes a tsundere! What? She's good, okay? Chiho is definitely the weakest of the main characters, but she's actually not that shitty for being a moe boob archetype. She's actually tolerable, above average among other characters of her ilk. Again, another surprise. But I definitely didn't appreciate them giving her stupidly big gazongas. They're used as a cliche excuse for Emi to get jealous of Chiho's endowment, and that simply wasn't necessary for either character, though there is one scene, which I won't spoil, where they actually use their contrasting breast sizes in a uniquely comedic way, and I'll admit, I chuckled at it. The character I feel could have used more attention was Ashiya. He didn't interact with characters much outside of Maou-sama, and the times where he branched out were pretty fun. He is a character who just could have used more depth. I saved the best character to talk about last. Suzuno's the best! Suzuno Kamazuki. It's hard not to love Suzuno. The nuances in her character are extremely interesting, like her speech patterns and manners of conducting herself with other people. It's hilarious watching her ignorance about modern technology and attempt to interact with it. There's also an interesting emotional and moral dilemma that she goes through. I've never seen a character quite like her. And, in addition to being likable, unique, interesting, having a great backstory, and undergoing development, she's friggin' cute! Seriously! Just look at how her hair is pulled over to one side, with that shorter lock on the other side to balance it out. And her eyes. And she pulls off traditional kimonos like none other. Every aspect of her design is just great. The only thing not to like is that she uses a giant mallet for a weapon, which was just plain silly, especially in light of how serious her backstory is. As overused as katana are, one definitely would have been a perfect weapon for her, particularly when considering her traditional Japanese garb. Anyways, Suzuno is definitely up there in my top 15 favorite female characters. She needed much more screen time than she got. She's... What? Only 42 favorites on my anime list? What the fuck is this bullshit? What a giant fucking steamy load of donkey dung. Maul confirmed for being a giant pile of horse feces. Bunch of goddamn motherfucking fuck. All in all, the characters and their interactions are the strongest suit of the show, and you all know how much I value characters. My score for that department was definitely boosted by Suzuno's presence. The visual department is nothing special. I can only really describe it as above average. Corners are seldom cut in animation, and action scenes are pretty well done. The character designs aren't too impressive, except for Suzuno, of course. Suzuno's the best! The facial expressions are probably the only thing that really stands out in any way. They are intense and wacky and entertaining. Here are some of my favorite ones now. There are just some instances where background characters' faces look deformed, though it's hard to notice unless you're looking. The music is also nothing special. It works in the scenes in which it's used and that's all. The OP and ED are just okay. Again, nothing to write home about whatsoever. The only noteworthy aspect of the sound is the voice acting, which was very good. The Tsundere's voice didn't make me want to stick rusty forks in my ears. Even Moe Boobs had moments where her voice acting wasn't just generic Moe Blobness. And Suzuno is the best once again! But seriously though, Kane Ito's voice acting brings an outstanding sense of refinement and poise to her character which, when combined with her subtle facial expressions, helps complete her character perfectly. Her delivery leaves nothing to be desired.
これだけであとはうどんを茹でればすぐに食事は整う。茹で上がったら冷水でさっと締めれば立派な冷やしうどん。
One of the low points in the anime was the shoehorned-in swimsuit episode which, although it had a more clever excuse for existing than most, was still just a fan service episode all the same. But then we wouldn't have gotten to see Suzuno in the sexiest swimming suit you'll ever see. Oh yeah. That's so hot. Hataraku Maou-sama is a surprisingly strong anime in lieu of the fact that it's an adaptation of a light novel, which are 99% ass cheese and the spawning pit of most otaku pandering wish fulfillment shit. Seriously, most light novels you find are either just fan service or fan fiction. In a medium that seems to be nothing more than a dumping ground for the toxic waste of talentless writers, Maou-sama is a rarity indeed. But it might help that White Fox is just good at adapting source material. Let's recap. The comedy is mostly fresh and hits much more often than it misses. The story is pretty solid, though some elements of it sucked, like the sudden introduction of villains and resolution of conflicts. The characters are good and likable and play well off each other. There were occasional bits of fan service, albeit few and far between, and not enough to get me, who is probably the biggest detractor of fan service you'll ever meet, up in arms about it. The production values aren't great either, but they work for what the show is trying to be. The show is just extremely enjoyable in general. And Susanoo! Fuck yeah. Critic score, 6.5 out of 10. My personal, strictly subjective fanboy score, 7.3 out of 10. Susanoo score, yes! Out of 10. This is definitely a show that deserves a second season, if for nothing else, simply because Susanoo needs more screen time. Like, I mean, even make her the main character, because she's fucking awesome. Period. And that's it. The world has been saved. Good job, me. Susanoo is Draco's waifu. What? Who said that? Who the fuck let you into my house? I could prove it, too. Seriously, get the fuck out of my house. Just look at this incriminating evidence. Wait, this isn't what it looks like, I swear. I can explain. Just embrace your inner otaku. Embrace it! Draconis March in no way promotes the ownership of, hugging, licking, groping, serenading, humping, or marrying of Dakimakura. Draconis March in no way promotes the idolization or objectification of fictional animated girls. Draconis March in no way allows the sharing of Susanoo Kamizuki under any circumstances. Jurisdictions apply, results may vary. Yo hoes, Draconis here. I'd just like to give mad props to Avon Mac for making the most badass template ever for me. What a boss. And another big shout out to Goat Jesus for selflessly slaving away on the opening animation for hours and hours for me. He has parodies and other cool shit on his channel. He's a pretty smart critic, kinda like me. Maybe you should, like, I don't know, check him out or something. Maybe even subscribe to him. And me too while you're at it. It's not like I like him or anything, stupid baka.
Touch us, don't find him, and this victory is